Always good unboxing videos. Everyone loves them. Whiteline package just arrived. KTA252. Lower control arms for a Golf R Audi S3. Let's open it up and see what is inside. Yeah, they were super quick to get here. Got them overnight, which is nice. So lower control arms, increase the caster. And then you increase the caster, you actually increase the camber when you have the wheels turned. Ooh. Set of instructions. The tasty do not eat packs. So it comes with, what's that? Just a little info card. Some good old bushing lube. What's that? A little thank you for purchasing. But yeah, let's look at the arms. Nice alloy, a lot lighter than stock steel. Offset bushings. Cool. Get these on. Nice and light. That whole, obviously, a little bit of weight reduction. Perfect. So these are going to go well with our, we got the Whiteline roll center kit, which is the new ball joints. So they get a bit more camber out of the ball joints too. So yeah, you can see there that bushing offset. Now this is there's two options. This is the medium one with a bit less of a caster change than the others, but it's going to give lots of wheel clearance and stuff. If you go the other ones, you can't run too tall a tire and too low. You can run into some clearance issues in the fender, but it's pretty simple to bolt in. We'll do an install video shortly, but great one to unpack. The build quality on these is fantastic. Just really nice to get some weight off it. That's some, I guess it's technically unsprung or sprung weight. It's kind of in the wheel area, but it should sharpen things up nicely. Okay, we're gonna change out these control arms. So we're gonna get, and we're under the car, just having a little look at what we gotta do. So that's the control arm there. We're going to have to undo that bolt there, and then undo the ball joint. So we have the adjustable roll center kit, so the ball joints that have some slotted camber action in them from Whiteline, so we'll just undo those as well. And then these are the cable ties that hold on our S3 cooling ducts, so we'll snip them off and start undoing some bolts. Well, if you're going to do your sway bars, I've already done them, but it's time to do it now, because you got to lower the front subframe. Not a lot, but if you can take it right out and do your sway bars, that's easy enough to do too. Reason being, you've got lots of clearance on this side to take this bolt out, but on the side of the transmission, you don't. There it is, and there's not enough room because it's quite a long bolt. So you got to lower the front of it, which isn't too hard. It's just, you got to, we're unbolting most of this anyway, so it's just a few extra bolts. So a few more subframe bolts. There's a ton of videos on them. I'll show you a little bit, but you just got to loosen a few, like the ones in the rear here. We'll just loosen those up. We got to take out the dog bone mount bolts, and then there's 4 more. 2 you get to at that hole there through the control arm, and then there's another 2 that are in the back right there. So not hard, so we don't have to drop it totally, but we will definitely loosen them up so we can get some room to get that bolt out. So it doesn't take much, just a few degrees should do it. So we'll get cracking and pull those bolts and get the jack under here just to support the weight. Now you'll notice this is a bit different, this subframe, because this is an S3, so we have the lighter weight alloy subframe, which a lot of Golf guys seem to be swapping in to save a bit of front end weight. We'll start pulling out the bolts for the ball joints. Get all these out of here. But I noticed that I hadn't seen in any other videos on doing control arms and things is this, and this is for the ride height sensor. It's a little kind of arm on the other side. That has to do with the headlights and some of the suspension if you have adaptive suspension. So it's just a 10 mil, but we'll just take that out. That way it won't be hanging the subframe from them, because I don't think that would be very good from it. would probably snap it off and we'd have to buy a new sensor. Not what we want to do. Okay, we've taken, loosened up a lot of the bolts in the front subframe and we've been able to drop it so it's on the jack. We just need to be able to clear the bolt that's over here. You can see that, oh, it's just on the other side of the jack, with the gearbox. So that's, looks like it's got enough room to clear to be able to pull that bolt out. What we did, we just loosened everything kind of from basically the back half of this, but undid the front half. So undid the dog bone mount here and the one bolt in the front of the control arm, that the access through the hole up there through the control arm. The rest of it we just backed off and let it drop down. So you're gonna have to get an alignment anyway. Your front subframe is gonna shift. We have a 034 Motorsport locking kit on it, which kind of keeps it all centered up, but you can, you do have play in this, so you can move it left or right. So if, there's enough videos and you can see on there how to remove your front subframe, and a lot of them show how to mark it. Just kind of get some little like indicator marks or get a paint pen, but yeah, we didn't do that because we lock up pretty solid. So now it's time to get an 18. There we go. And we're gonna start pulling the bolts off. The bolt at the back of the arm, that's an 18 mil as well. Actually, I had to go buy some 18 mil sockets, a deep and a short, because my kit goes 17 and 19, no 18, but not expensive. Just go pick one up. Now, something I did notice watching the videos with the Golf versus the S3, the Golf has a nut on the top of this you have to hold, where the S3, because it's an alloy subframe, it's threaded, so it just goes into the bolts into the subframe. You don't have a nut on top you need to hold. Okay, a bit more info on what we'll call the tricky side, which is the gearbox side. Had to get in there with the pry bar and kind of shift around the subframe, and I did have to take out the back bolt on this side just to get enough movement in it. So do have enough movement, got the breaker bar on it, broke it, and then we can get on there with the regular ratchet and pull it out. It's pretty in there, pretty loose after you break it. And I got that out, and look, it is just enough clearance to get that out. Okay, now the bolts are out. Let's give this a wiggle. We should be able to just rock this back and forth and get it out too. There we go, one side. Remember we undid that little thing from the arm. Good thing we did. And the other one, we're gonna have to get the pry bar in there and get it out. Moved. Come on. Out, got it out, yay. So, said it just didn't take much, just took some wiggling and prying. We're gonna weigh them. Let's see what the weight difference is, because they're steel, but they're drilled out pretty well. There's one 3 kilo. Doesn't like them. Okay, I got these two on the scale. Now see, I'm just holding the balance with my thumb, not pushing on it at all. 6.4 kilos for the two stock arms. Now we'll measure the Whiteline alloy ones. Okay, I've got the alloy ones on, not holding it at all. 5.9, so that's a bit of a difference, 6.4 versus 5.9. Not huge, but I guess it is sort of, you know, unsprung weight, so it's going to make a difference. Always, weight reduction is always good, you know, race car. So they do supply some high performance bushing lubricant, so that's just probably a lithium grease, and they say to grease the outside, but we're going to do all sides of the bushing. We'll do the back one too, just a little bit here and there, just to make installation a little easier, but also make sure we don't get any, you know, squeaking, rubbing noises. So got the glove, got the lube, and we'll just load her up. Not super heavy, but definitely well coated. Okay, now ready to slot it in. So it's gonna be pretty tight tolerances to get this in here, but let's just give it a go. So try to do the reverse. We got it, Ed. So back one came out last. We'll try that, get that in first. Okay, it's at this point of the video, I got pretty stuck. I could not get the rear bolt to line up at all if the front was stuck in, if the front bolt was in the control arm. It really frustrated me. I actually spent a couple hours on it, about 3 hours trying to work it out. And then I go through and I kind of finish it off at the end. It takes a lot of brute force, but put the rear bolt in first, pull and pry to try to get the front one in, and then whack it. So that the block of wood with a hammer, you could use a dead blow hammer. But it was super frustrating, and you'll see how I get the control arm level to get it in the back and get the bolt in. If it's a Golf, no problem, because you got the nut on top. You can just whale it through and then put the nut on top. But the S3, because you got to line it up, I think the whole thing would be a lot easier if you just took the whole subframe out. So if you're doing the subframe locking collars and front sway bar like we did in our previous video, really easy just to do this at the same time. Yeah, you got to spend money for a few more parts. You might not have the budget, but it's worth doing. And the control arms, you know, it's been a few days since I've had them in, and they really, really make a difference. Highly recommend this mod. Okay, top tip for getting the back one in. There's a plastic liner, get it high and level and goes in nice and easy. If you try to do it on a bit of an angle, you just want to go in there. So there's actually a good bit of room. Get it in there, and then you can get the bolt in and do the front one. Okay, took a bit of smacking with the block of wood, but we got it in there. And we got a screwdriver just to kind of line that up. We'll get our bolt started. So we do have, we've got a plastic pan there. We do have quite a bit of clearance. And we just got to get that, we got to drive it in a little bit just to line everything up, and then we'll get it started hand tight. Then we're going to torque it all to spec. Now I'm going to have all the specs up here over the video as we go and finish off. Okay, I got one side pretty much done. Not gonna lie, this is probably one of the harder things I've had to do, largely because, unlike a lot of people's videos, I couldn't get the arms in. I could get the front bolt, I could get this in no problem, and that lined up okay, but I couldn't line it up so the bolt, so the offset bushings, I guess, put tension on it. So I've had to really drop the subframe down a bit more to get more clearance and leverage, and I really did it just with some pry bars going through that hole, and also with a mallet and a block of wood, just levering and pulling and pushing and hammering to get them in. But still not super hard, but if you're going to do your front sway bar, do these at the same time, and then do a locking collar kit to keep it all aligned, and then you can get them in nice and easy when it's out on a workbench instead of upside down. Plus, it doesn't help that I didn't jack up my car high enough. And I dropped my phone. I found to do the back one first, and then pull it around, and then, yeah, having to lever it into the groove here, and then knock the end. So not with just a straight hammer, but I used a block of wood, it fit into that groove neatly, and just wailed on it, and it just went in eventually then. And then, of course, maneuvered it around with some screwdrivers inside the holes. But yeah, you got to, in order to do that, you have to have it quite flat. And in order to get it flat, you got to drop the subframe quite low. No big deal. Put the jack under it, undo the bolts, lower it down. One thing we got to do, because we've got RS3 brake ducts, got to give them a trim because they're slightly different. They don't really fit the aftermarket control arm very well, so not too major. So we just need to trim the heights down in these ones. These are just some cutters. That'll do. And then on these two here, you gotta take these right off because they're just their arms are too wide at that point. It's a slightly different curve, and there's no little hole for this little thing to go through because it goes through a hole in the arm on the stock arm. So let's just cut those off. Pretty simple. There we go. We'll strap those back on, and our RS3 brake ducts are back and ready to go. Well, I just took it for a drive. Feels pretty good. Definitely feels tighter, but we got to get alignment done and see what the specs are now compared to what they were. Pretty cool. You know, this is now got everything on Whiteline on it, except you know, I took the springs off to put the coilovers in. So it's a pretty decent setup now. Plenty of grip. Now we're gonna get the new alignment done, see what kind of new alignment specs we have on it, see what we can get out of it, and then we're gonna got another track day coming up in about 2 weeks. We'll see how it goes there with those specs. We'll probably get it corner weighted in the meantime, just so we can see if we can just get it handling even better.